I'm Cindy, and I am a GreySheeter, and I am a food addict and compulsive overeater in recovery. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet. I commit them to my sponsor, another qualified person. I don't eat in between meals, no matter what. My abstinence and my sobriety are the most important things in my life today. And thank you so much. And I so appreciate and thank you for the opportunity to share. And I am just grateful that this opportunity is available for us to share our stories and to hear the things that we do. So first of all, I want to say that I just celebrated 23 years of abstinent and GreySheet, which is utterly and completely miraculous. I'm very grateful. Thank you. You're clapping because there is a higher power. There's a universe that allows this and supports us in doing it, and a community of GreySheeters around the world that have supported me personally in doing this. And I know they're supporting you also. I celebrated just not very long ago, 50 years in the beverage program, which is pretty astonishing. I started at 24, but the astonishing part is that I came to both programs at the same time. You notice that there's a significant time lapse between the abstinent state and the sobriety date. So Tom is my brother, and with his 48 years, some of you heard, and I'm very grateful that that exists also. I would not be alive had I not been sober during that period of time. I was abstinent for chunks of that time, sometimes days, minutes, but sometimes as long as 6 years with some kind of abstinence, but perhaps 30 to 40 pounds heavier than this abstinence. So it was very different abstinence and included some of the substances and behaviors that I no longer engage in. Because this is an intergroup meeting, I'll tell you that my top weight was 224 pounds, my lowest weight, 124 pounds. And that 100 pounds in between, there were lots of filling up of the space and narrowing the space and binging and all of those things. I tried anorexia one time and I got 2 very black eyes. That wasn't successful. And it's the only time that I only did things one time and stopped. I've never done anything else. I came to the programs in 71 via a swingers party in Hollywood, and that I have heard my story since then, but it's an unusual one. And I had a lot of other behaviors and substances and mental and emotional difficulties that are helpful to me today because I am not in them. And so I can speak with authority from my own experience about how clarifying abstinence is from grains and sugar. And that's an amazing experience for me because the mental crazies and a lot of labels that I acquired from doctors over the years, et cetera, were part of that. But the service, I want to say that my first experience of service in GreySheet was the leader of a meeting where I had gone. I did not want to go to GreySheet again, ever. I had that at the beginning, very beginning, it had worked, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I'd do anything else, but not GreySheet, please, even though it worked. So 27 years later, I was suicidal and came again to a meeting. I mean, I'd been coming to some meetings, but not one that structured in the way that we do. And I came and the people were all thin and I was not. I was 25 down from my top weight, but I was still pretty large. And I sat politely. I emphasize the politely. And then the first instance of service that I experienced was the leader coming up to say, "Do you have a sponsor?" Before I could say anything but no, she got me one. And before I said or did anything further, that sponsor said to me, "Can you commit one meal?" And that's all she asked of me. She did not ask whether I would stay abstinent, whether I had any interest in abstinence. I mean, I must have had some. I was at the meeting, suicidal earlier in the day, and had asked for a meeting, not thinking it was this. And so those two were my first two experiences. Ask very specifically and receive a very specific answer. Because my answer to the first one was, no, I don't have a sponsor. Second one, yes, anybody can commit one meal. I was not very pleasant. I wasn't polite by that time. So I did commit that one meal. She helped me to do one meal and asked me to call her the next day. And I did. And that was my service back to the program, because we need those connections to have it work. And the sponsees that I have, that some of them are many, many years abstinent. And I'm like, how did that happen? I still get shivers when people tell me that. 20 years abstinent, really? 17 years abstinent, really? I know it was a year ago and you were 1 year less, but it still is so awe-inspiring to know that together we can do these things that we can't do apart. So then the kinds of service that I did were picking up the garbage from the women's restroom in the nunnery, the convent where we had our meetings in Los Angeles when I first got abstinent this time in 1998. So, you don't have to do much service. You just have to keep doing service. So this is service. All of the things that I've done in the 23 years in between have been service. And some of you have known me in those service opportunities, coming to other countries to share, to speak, to love, to be present for celebrations for in Iceland and in England. And, I have friends from all of these places in the world where I have been as a result of Grey Sheet abstinence. I've come to know and love people in Slovenia. Some of you know these people. You know exactly who I'm talking about. In Mexico City, in places around Slovakia and Bulgaria, and the places scatter farther and farther. I've been to France and been with Anne and others in France, and it's just that connection of being in a face-to-face meeting, how wonderful that is, our hearts to hearts, brainstorming and heart storming when in the literature committees, and in finance and in structure, and the list goes on. Being part of World Service for 2013, 14, and 16, and 19 as well. And so it was just an amazing experience to have I think it was 19. Anyway, one of those. But to have the experiences of that, to have the experiences of helping to create and support the various roundups, one-day events, 2-day events, how much fun we've had in Indian restaurants and in between the days in London. Oh, delicious food and friendship, and sitting and getting to know people that I had known over the telephone or over some means, but I hadn't known in person. And I've come to know some of you in those ways. I've known connections of yours. So the people in Germany that I haven't ever visited, I know people who've moved to the United States or moved from the United States, and all the interconnections of our hearts and our experience and our shared planning, practicing, preparing, protecting our abstinence, and this beautiful organization that we have. We don't always agree on everything. And I love one of the people that I know outside of the program who talks about mindfulness, and he talks about rigidity on one side and chaos on the other, and the river of integration flowing in between. And I love that, because I have washed up on the chaos side, washed up on the rigidity side, and I keep thank you, Aga, and striving to get down into that middle range of the flow of integration, because that's where I want to live. That's where I want to be. And that's the most peaceful place for me to be. So one of the things that helps me to get there is always service. So whenever I am too distressed with myself, self, then I can get back into service and be present with you all and doing the things that we're doing to create the Malibu retreat, or to make it come off without a hitch. Or we were talking earlier about our wonderful chef there who has since passed, and what a gift he was to our organization and all of our years of fellowship there. And I've gone to the roundups in Chicago. I've gone to the roundup of the retreats at the Chicago Retreat Center, the Cenacle that's no longer doing that. And I've gone to the kinds of service things that have been at intergroups and I love the European Intergroup and the support that you have given to World Service over so many years. I mean, I'm always in awe of how much money you have given, how much service you have given, how much you have gifted your hearts to the world and to World Service. The phone bridge, I was lead moderator for the phone bridge intergroup for a period of time, and that was a tumultuous time when they were, those people were yelling and screaming, the interrupters. And what a difference it is today to have meetings that are quiet and peaceful, and Zoom meetings, that have come to just be this blossom of wonderful opportunities for so many people, for us to see each other and to hear each other as well. What a gift it is. So I am grateful to be a GreySheeter. I'm grateful that we know that the opportunities to give service and to participate in supporting this organization are so many. And then to support food addiction outside in the community and public information. I do that at the Food Addiction Institute and in other modalities where I've received training in order to know more about the disease of food addiction. I have the solution with GreySheet abstinence, but the disease I didn't know as much about until I took courses. And if you're interested in that, I'm always willing to share. There are so many ways that we get to share in GreySheeters Anonymous and in this world community that we have. It may not be large in number, but it's mighty. And I didn't even mention Israel and how dear friends are there too. So all over this world, here we are, GreySheeters one and all. And abstinence is the basis of this, and abstinence from our food substance, well, the substances and the foods that we abstain from, but also from the behaviors that keep us separated. And the traditions and the concepts will help us to do that over and over and over again. So dedicating our time and energy to that. And the freedoms, I love the freedoms. Those are mine. I am graced with the freedoms that GreySheeters Anonymous has given to me and to each of us. So stay for the miracles. They work, and a phone call, we're only a phone call away, always. Thank you. God bless each, no matter what.